We are looking at Anomaly Arbitration for version 4.1. We're going to take a look at the bosses, the stage effects, talk about some teams, and do a little demo, and then we will do the AA King fight at the end. So let's start with Night 1. We've got the new Daybreak Squadron enemy type, the Azure Wing, or the Blue Ranger, if you will. This is an interesting fight because it's more of a horde mode where you're going to get a bunch of waves of enemies rather than one singular boss. The new Daybreak Squadron enemy is just like an elite. It's not a full-on boss, and you'll fight a couple of them. Not too much to worry about mechanically. The Squadron character is just like one of those hit them a couple times and they start taking more damage. The other enemies are affected by having an AHA instant, which will dispel some of their effects. But you will just get an AHA instant because they also give you punchline under certain circumstances. So it's not necessary to play Elation, but it does favor Elation a little bit. As far as the stage effect, we've got Confinement, which gives you 2 stacks of an effect that does 10% damage reduction. So that means you'll start the fight with, or decreasing your own damage. I shouldn't say damage reduction. So you'll start the fight with your damage decreased by 20%. Honestly, not a huge deal even at the beginning, but to make it even easier, it will dispel a stack every time you use your ultimate. So it'll go down to 10 the first time you use your ultimate and then go away the second time. So that's very manageable. Everybody's going to use their ultimate. Obviously, if you have a character that uses an ultimate faster, you're going to dispel it faster. And I will say, and don't quote me on this, I think break damage and elation damage are not going to care about this effect at all because they are not affected by damage multipliers. So I don't have a good way of proving that, but based on my own testing, both of those teams have kind of been the best results, at least at E0, that I've gotten. So for the demo purposes, I am going to use the Elation team. I've got my E0 S1 Sparksy. I have E1 S1 Yaoguang, E0 S0 Sparkle with Dance Dance Dance. And I'm going to be using Aventurine because I have Dan Hung PT reserved for another team that we'll talk about. So going to dust him off. You can use any sustain though, really. I mean, you can use Ho-Ho for the energy, whatever you want to do. So really the biggest challenge with this fight is the fact that you've got a lot of chunky elite enemies to fight through and just a lot of damage to do, but mechanically not very restrictive. So team-wise, just whatever heaviest hitting team that you can spare, you can put in here and you'll probably be fine. It does just favor Elation a little bit and maybe even Break. I've had a lot of success using Firefly in this fight as well. Okay, so for night number 2, we've got our old friend Pollux. Absolutely hate this boss. I'm going to say it every single time. I think it's the worst designed boss in the game. The mechanics are based around gaining and losing HP as much as possible to make them change their modes. And they can also just straight up ignore shields, so you almost have to have a healer unless you're just trying to brute force as much as you can. But even then, it's hard to brute force it because they get massive damage reduction until you can change your HP and change their modes. So this super, super heavily favors casters and Hyacine. Probably Hyacine more than anything, but you could casters also works really well with it. There's not really a lot of great alternatives, to be honest. You can try to brute force it and just make sure you have a healer, but it really heavily favors the Remembrance characters, which is why I think it's one of the worst bosses in the game. And the stage effects don't make it any better. The main one, Depowering, when you enter combat, your energy is reduced by 50%, and your energy regen is reduced by 50% for 2 turns. It's worth noting, because this is important, that the energy regen is reduced for your energy outside of your turn. So primarily that means the energy gain that you get when enemies hit you, but there are other things, anything that's not your normal turn. But it does mean your basic attack and skill will give you your normal amount of energy that you would gain anyway, so that's good. And the effect does dispel after 2 turns. It just slows you down quite a bit if you have a character depending on energy. And you know who doesn't depend on energy? Castress. So it just favors her even more. Like I said, though, Hyacine might be the most important character in terms of just surviving, and she also ends up doing massive damage herself with all the healing that she has to do, because, as you may know, Hyacine's healing is damage is based on her healing. So she is on the banner right now, so might be a good time to pick her up, because Pollux isn't going anywhere. For the purposes of our demo, I'm trying to keep this to E0 characters, so I'm not going to use my E2 Castress. I'm going to use my E0S1 Evernight with E0S1 Cyrene. I've got E6 Trailblazer, of course, and I have an E1S1 Hyacine to basically be my main DPS. You'll see in this specific fight, Evernight is really the sub DPS, but you know, we'll see in a minute. Okay, so finally, night 3, we've got the Xandar Lygus fight. It's funny because his mechanics also favor having your Memo Sprite team. His modes will change based on characters getting summoned on the field, which includes his minions and your Memo Sprites, so you can kind of manipulate that a little bit. It's not super important, though. Anybody that can just wipe out his minions quickly can also advance his turns, or you can just hit him really hard. His mechanics are not really that important, but it does favor the Remembrance team. Now, given the choice, you will want to play the Remembrance team against Pollux. It's not even a question. So if you've got Hyacine and you've got Castress and you've got Evernight, play them on night 2, even though they're also probably the best choice for night 3. So that said, without the Remembrance team, you know, you do have a lot of other choices, so it's pretty flexible. The mechanics are not that restrictive. As far as the stage effect, we have an awful stage effect, probably my least favorite one, Interference, and when you get attacked, you basically get your action delayed by 5 or 10% randomly. So that's really annoying. I think using action delay on your players is a terrible game design, but it is what it is. And I think the best way to do that is just cheat yourself, bring lots of your own action advance, and even maybe some follow-up attacks. And so that is why I'm going to play Ashvale in this fight. Typically, I would recommend using somebody AoE heavy to clear out the minions in the second phase of Xandar when he summons when he goes 5 deep and you've got to take out his minions quickly. I'm not too worried about that, though. Ashvale can kind of brute force his way through it. And like I said, his follow-up attacks and playing him as hyper carry kind of fights off that action delay effect. So we'll see how effective that can be in the demo. Beyond that, though, anybody that can do a lot of AoE damage and whoever's going to be your next strongest available team is fine. A lot of flexibility, I think, on night 1, night 3. They're just hard because there's a lot of HP to chew through. But otherwise, you have a fair amount of flexibility on your actual teams. I will say, too, I've had some of my followers mention that Dot is very effective on the Xandar on the Xandar fight. I can't really test that myself because my Dot team is my E6 team, and I do not have real-world experience as to that. Yes, they do blow him up, but they're E6, so I can't test that. So leave a comment if that's been successful for you as well. Okay, let's get to the demos. For night 1, I've got the Sparksy team, like I mentioned, with Yaoguang, Sparkle, and I've subbed in Aventurine since Dan Heng is going to be tied up on the Ashvale team. Let's dive into the demo.
Oh, the bigger the risk, the better.
So, like I mentioned, this fight doesn't really have a true boss. We're going to fight multiple copies of the new Daybreak Squadron enemy, along with a lot of other enemies. And there's just a lot of chunky enemies that you gotta fight your way through.
People always say, observe the heavens
In a way,
with
it's
my
almost like a big
divination.
damage check.
Best of luck. An explosive start.
So,
I'll go easy this time.
the new enemy type, you can see I've already knocked him out, but it's basically hit him a couple times and they take more, it like dispels their armor and they take more damage. I believe the different color types correspond to an element where you'll actually be giving them extra attacks
Don't thank me.
if you attack with that element. So for example, I believe the blue one is like a quantum element, and if you attack with quantum, they'll get some more turns.
I've kept you.
Not really affecting the game plan much at all, particularly as I don't have any quantum characters attacking. I have Sparkle, but she doesn't attack.
Troublemaker? I'd like to be one too.
And of course, our bird chicken guy,
The dice have been cast. Bust.
mafia chicken,
Or maybe
or
we'll take
sorry,
it all.
it's more of a yakuza than mafia.
Game's on.
We can make him stop playing by triggering an aha instant, which we're about to do. So he's going to be pretty disappointed.
Start.
Well, that and you can just break him, so that is another way to do it.
Cloud to scatter.
Let's put. Can you find the answer?
I gotta say, I do not particularly enjoy the Elation team, at least the Sparksy version. I feel like there's not a lot to, I don't know, do. Not that, you know,
People always say, observe the
this is not a
heavens with my
mechanically
divination.
challenging game, but a lot of other teams, you do have to make
Don't thank me.
more decisions about, like, what enemies to target, or, like, when to use your ultimate. And
Feeling spiffy?
you don't really need to do that with this team. To be fair, I love Dot, and that's also a pretty brain-dead team. But, I don't know. It just feels different. Maybe because the Dot team has Kafka, and she's my favorite character.
Luck. An explosive start.
Viewers.
Yeah, so you can see this is just like wave after wave of enemy, no big boss. I don't know if we've had a night like that in Anomaly Arbitration. I can't remember.
Watch your head.
So that does seem like a kind of new thing. If we have had it, it's pretty rare.
Sure, I'll play along. Spend free.
I better skill because Sparksy's almost out of shield.
Let's play. Can you find the answer?
And Yakuza Bird Guy just wants to play the song, and we're not letting him.
Where is it?
Stars favor us.
Hedge your bets. The dice have been cast. Bust. Or maybe I'll take it all.
Let's play for a while. Feeling spiffy? That's how the spiky
Trouble ahead. One.
So I think we're gonna clear this in one
People
turn.
always observe the heavens with my divinations.
which is pretty good all things considered. Well, we are using an E0S1 DPS. I do have the Eidolon on Yao Guang, but you know, she's a support. Alright, so yeah, we made that in one turn, and that's night 1. So for night 2, we've got the Pollux boss. We're going to use the Evernight team with Cyrene, Trailblazer, and Hyacine. Let's check it out.
That one is hard to persuade. Let's observe first. Deja vu. Turn over this eternal page. Play nice.
So I mentioned before,
Let's try it this other way.
Hyacine is kind of the main DPS on this particular team in this particular fight.
Next time it rains.
And you will see when we get to the actual Pollux part.
Your time to shine. Meet again.
I did not mention, this part is actually pretty hard too, because if you recall, these particular enemies hit like a truck. They do a lot of damage for just like
Next time it rains.
regular
I'll be treat our guests nice.
non-boss enemies.
Rise and
And the archer ones with the bows
Don't worry.
that do their like counter move,
Good night.
where you'll just take a wave of damage
Tomorrow.
over and over again, and it can be very tough to fight through.
Waiting to be woken up by a shooting star.
It makes it hard because you don't want to shield her in this fight, but most healers that aren't Hyacine are gonna struggle to keep you alive. So you're just kind of in a tight spot. Okay. So this is what I was talking about with the Elation team. There is actually some strategy here on how I want to use my ultimates, for example. Even though it's small, I want to use Hyacine's first because that's going to give me the HP boost, and the others are going to do more damage. I also want to use Everknight's because Everknight has an ult that buffs everybody, so we're going to do more damage. And I don't want to use Trailblazers because Trailblazers will give you like the 40% charge on her action advance, and I'm at 95, so that'll be a waste. So I might as well get the action advance first, and then we can use the ultimate.
Trust me. We can do anything.
So that is, to me, just, it's a small thing, but it's a lot more entertaining than Elation, which is just, at the moment anyway, Sparksy go brr. Sparksy spins the wheel, everything dies. Okay, so for this squad, we're gonna mostly have Cyrene attack with her ult. If I needed the little extra bit of energy for Hyacine's ultimate, I might use it, but at the moment, not necessary.
The future is great. So may the wind. Mavis, dispel the gloom.
You can see Hyacine already
I'll be there. Umbrella in hand.
matching Everknight's damage.
Holy rash. Mimi. Again. Rise and shine.
To be fair, my Hyacine is E1,
It's the answer.
so she does have an Eidolon.
Have some sunshine. Thanks. All
But also her Eidolon is primarily an HP increase, so that helps Everknight as well, so...
have some fun. Don't blink. Cleanse hatred with love. Meet again.
I'm on it. I'm still here. Trust me. We can do anything.
This is eternity.
So a lot of the Pollux fight, like I said, is gaining and losing HP, which makes the percentage go up under their name, and then once they hit 100, it'll start counting back down, and just keep switching modes. And like I said, they can just straight up ignore your shields, so you really want a healer. The problem, of course, is most healers are going to struggle to keep up. I'll be real with you, I have not been able to 3-star this fight without Hyacine so far. I can clear it, like Luocha or, you know, even Gallagher will do enough healing to, like, help you survive. But you're not going to advance the phases as quickly and then just do the ton of damage that Hyacine does. Like, she is regularly breaking 1 million.
Destruction with me. You just don't learn. Have some fun.
Alright, Evernight, can you get us to the next phase here? Thank you. Oh. We actually took enough damage to go down there. That is pretty rare in all of my testing here. Of course, it would do it while I'm recording. So, just ignore the caster's passive.
That won't work, you know.
So again, hanging on to Trailblazer's ultimate because I'm so close to getting the action advance. We have plenty of skill points, so I can just skill. Okay, now we can use it.
Trust me, we can do anything.
Time for some fun.
Hyacine with the casual 1.5 million, you know.
Prepare to awaken the answer. Don't blink.
Little Ika is insatiable.
Rewrite destruction with me. Stop messing again. Try some sun.
This has been insane.
As we've written, cleanse hatred with love.
Okay, we're almost done here. I think Hyacine's gonna take him out. Or her out. Them out? Or maybe Evernight will do it.
Don't worry, night falls. Good night.
There we go. Okay. So even with Hyacine and Evernight, it was cutting a little close there. But we did get the 2 cycles. We got the 3 stars. So let's move on to night 3. For night 3, we've got the Lygus/Xandar fight. I'm using my new E0S1 Ashvale. I don't think I mentioned in the beginning the rest of my team. I do have E1, E0 Tribute with Dance Dance Dance, E1S1 Sunday, and E0S1 Danheng PT. So let's see how it goes.
Are they here for revenge as well?
The day of peaceful.
Trying to trick me?
Earth shatters, heaven trembles.
So this is another one where I feel like there's just a lot of enemies you got to get through, and then there's a boss at the end. So again, like mechanically, it's a lot more forgiving than past Anomaly arbitrations, but in terms of just raw amount of damage you have to do, I feel like it's more And I don't know if that's true or not. It just feels that way. Okay, so I love Ashvale. He might be, I'm not gonna say my new favorite character, but he's up there. He's so fun to play, and part of it is his ultimate makes up for his lack of AoE a little bit. It at least helps. Like, he's still definitely a single target character. He is about as hunt as a hunt character can get, but it just covers that weakness up a little bit. Like, he's still going to be bad in Pure Fiction. Or, you know, not great in Pure Fiction, let's say. But compared to someone like, say, you know, Boot Hill, as an example, who gives you absolutely nothing beyond single target damage, it's very nice. Also, just look how cool that is. Follow-up attacks are so fun. I didn't use it for this fight, but in, like, other endgame modes, I've been able to clear with a lot of the 4-star characters. I'm probably going to have some kind of showcase for that in the near future. So, playing Ashvale with, like, Moza or Hunt March, it's gonna be fun. Okay, so we're just not too much to say at the moment. We're just chopping through these enemies, right, to get to Lygus / Xandar. Okay, so you know, if you don't know how Lygus works, he's got that counter under his name. Every time he summons a minion, that's going to go up. And if you kill the minions, it'll make him summon more faster. So, you know, he just summoned 2. And if you can get him to summon 2 more, he will switch modes, where he will summon a lot more. He'll fill the screen. And then if you kill those enemies, he'll keep filling it and go to another phase. And every time he switches the second phase, so every 2 phases, he gets like massive damage reduction. Okay, so I'm actually going to target the side enemies here real quick to take them out, because that's going to force him to summon 2 and switch modes. And we can do that with Ashvale's ultimate. And still get a nice chunk of damage on Xandar himself, which is nice. Okay, so when the little crown in the action order comes up, he'll summon the enemies. Oh yeah, let's use our ultimates while we can. So he'll summon his 2 minions after Trivy's turn here. I don't know how Trivy... I must have missed skilling with Trivy there. Okay. And this is going to switch his modes. Now he's going to give us 2 free ultimates, which we get there, so that's nice. With the caveat of when you use it, you take a big chunk of damage, but that's fine. Not worried about that. And you'll see now the counter switched to 10, so we need to kill 10 minions to change his mode again. He'll do a big bomb of damage, and then he'll start taking a lot more damage himself. Now there is an interesting strategy call to make here. Do you have Ashvale chop through the minions, or do you have him stay focused on just doing damage to the boss? I've found that he does so much damage, it's better to just have him focus down the boss, and eventually Trivy and Donahun will take out the minions. Because you can only wait to get through so many phases. I maybe could have waited on that, because I'm going to overextend the energy gain from Sunday there. Overcap it. Yeah, you can see he just does a lot of damage. especially in this hyper carry setup. Now this is just a great team because both Tribby and Don Hung can passively trigger all of Ashvale's follow-up attacks. And if you're not familiar, he also gains energy anytime somebody attacks his his targeted enemy, right? Whoever has the mark on its head. And that means you can feed in to get more ultimates, which is going to get him more follow-up attacks. And it's a nice kind of looping synergy with Tribby and Don Hung. Ooh, Tribby did take a lot of damage from that free ultimate. I'm gonna have to skill with Don Hung when his turn comes up. I hope she doesn't go down in the meantime. I should have paid more attention to that. Okay, good. I can use Don Hung's ult to get a little extra shield. Okay, I think she'll be okay. You have to remember Trivia has high HP, so even though it looks like she doesn't have a lot of shield, she does actually have a lot of shield. So, no need to panic. Alright, so you can see Trivia and Don Hung have basically chipped away at all the side enemies. And we're already down to 2 health bars. Oh, 1 health bar.
We have the edge. Fight to the death. Dragons soaring above the land.
We might get him. If I can get Ashvale's ultimate. Okay, there we go. That's his big bomb. And that was kind of nice that we had the Don Hung dragon ready to dispel the debuffs. Okay, this might get him. Oh yeah. There we go. Alright, so very comfortable 2-cycle clear. I have done it in 1 with that team as well. I might have played that a little bit sloppy. But either way, pretty nice for the new guy. Alright. Let's move on to talk about the King fight. So the King in Check battle is featuring the new Pom Pom Mechatron boss. It's going to be a bit easier to explain the full mechanics when we get to the demo, but basically you want to build Punchline to power up your little robot buddies, and the robot buddy will remove Pom Pom's damage reduction. The damage reduction is pretty steep, so you kind of have to engage with this. The problem is gaining Punchline, and that's obviously going to favor your Elation characters, particularly Sparksy, who gets massive amounts of Punchline. It can be gained by other characters, though, by taking out the other little bots in the fight. They'll gain Punchline for you as well. But obviously this mechanic heavily favors Sparksy. In terms of the stage effects, let's take a look. We've got Sunder. So this is when allied targets are being attacked. They get inflicted with Sunder, and each stack makes it so that they lose 0.8% of their max HP. And that stack gets dissipated if you receive a shield or healing from one of your allies. So all of these buffs or stage effects are a bit inconsequential, really. In a way, this even helps you if you're using like Casterus or I guess Mighty it would work with too. So it's quite manageable if you're running a sustain anyway, who's just going to remove the stacks naturally. So not too much to worry about on that one. Interference, so this is just the same effect as the Xandar fight in the Knights, Knight 3. This is the random 5 or 10% action delay. Very annoying, but this can be combated with your own action advance, which you should be using anyway, because action advance is the best thing you can do in this game. And then finally, Confinement. This is the same effect as Night 1, where you take a 20% damage reduction at the start of the fight, and the 10% stack is removed every time you use your ultimate. So you're going to clear this pretty quick, particularly in a long fight. Also not very consequential. None of these are really worth building your teams around. They are just kind of annoying. So not too much more to say about that one. Now, as far as actual teams to pick, yes, the mechanics favor Sparksy. What you might find, though, particularly at E0, and what I have found, is Sparksy does not do quite as much damage as some of my other teams. And so, while she does interact with the mechanics well, you might get better results if you have, like, an E2 Castress or, you know, some other team with higher investment at E0. So, it's not just a slam dunk that you pick Sparksy and you're going to win. So let's just keep that in mind as we get into the buffs, because we do have some interesting choices. So the first buff is Beaming with Joy. This is the Elation buff. Increases Elation for all allies by 40%. And when the AHA instant ends, you regenerate 10% energy. So, yep, if you got Sparksy and Yao Guang, that is the Elation team right now. That's the buff you pick. And that's kind of it for that one. Pretty simple. The second buff is interesting, which is Add Insult to Injury, and this is after an enemy target is hit by a follow-up attack. Their damage taken is increased by 15% for 2 turns, and it can be stacked up to 4 times. Now, you might see this and immediately think, oh, this is the follow-up attack buff, and it is. You know, this is the one that we're going to use for Ashvale, right? But it's important to note that this is not follow-up attack damage that is getting buffed. What it is essentially doing is adding a pretty strong debuff to follow-up attacks. So, you don't necessarily need to be doing follow-up attack damage, you just need to be doing follow-up attacks. And there are a lot of characters that do follow-up attacks. So, for example, Tribby. Tribby does a lot of follow-up attacks, and she is hitting every enemy. That means she'll just be hitting every enemy with this debuff, you know, many times. Don Hung PT, his summon counts as a follow-up attack. He can help build stacks of this, so if you're using Tribby and Don Hung, you can get pretty decent uptime on this effect. You know, another good one is Linksha, or even Aventurine. That's, you know, 3 sustains that are all doing follow-up attacks pretty frequently. And if you combine that with Tribby, you can get pretty good uptime on this buff, to the point where it might actually be more effective than the third buff that we're going to look at. So I can't go through every possible scenario. You might just have to test that yourself. But if you're finding, you know, the third buff isn't working for you on one of your teams, think about if this buff might be possible, even if you're not doing follow-up attack damage. It might be something that will work better for you. Now, for the third buff, the Logistics Boost, this is the generic buff for pretty much anybody. Increase all ally targets damage dealt by 40%, and increase ally Pommy's speed by 50%. So the ally Pommy is your little robot buddy that's going to help you take down the damage reduction on Pom Pom. So by them going faster, that means they're going to build Punchline faster, and they're going to get to reduce the damage reduction faster. So that's what they're talking about when they're referring to the ally Pommy. It's a pretty helpful ability, although, you know, 50% speed is like, it's nice, but you'll see when we get into the combat why speed's not that important, because there's an action advance element as well. So it's not really that great. And honestly, the damage dealt buff is nice. It's like okay, but it's not like amazing at 40%. And there are some teams like Break that probably aren't even going to benefit from this at all. So, like I said, it's worth also considering if your team can support doing the second buff, even if you're not using follow-up attack. Okay, so for the demo, I'm wanting to do an E0 demo. I'm not going to lie to you, this one is kind of hard. There are not a lot of E0 characters I've had that I've been able to do it in 2 cycles. I haven't even been able to 0 cycle yet. I'm still working on that. So you know, I can get a very good score with like my E2 Casterus, but I want to do easier demos here. And it'd be nice to just kind of use the current banner character for fun. So I'm going to use Ashvale. You know, you could also... Sparksy is like the actual mechanically right answer, you know, quote unquote right answer. But we're going to do a demo with Ashvale, so let's take a look at that. Okay, so let's do the Pom Pom Mechatron fight. I've got the Ashvale Hypercarry team. Now this is a tricky fight because Ashvale is of course a single target character, and you need to figure out how you're going to direct his damage. For the first part of this fight, I like to focus on the blue bots. We want to try to take them out before the Stingray summons their little fish. And this is important because we don't want to be wasting any Ashvale damage on the little fish, because that's not really going to do anything for us. As you might know, his ultimate targets enemies with lowest HP, so if we start taking enemies out, it's going to target the fish. So okay.
This mortal watch over you and guide you on your path.
Another challenge with this fight is the action delay can mess up your speed tuning with Sunday. You might throw the whole fight just by, you know, losing one turn that way. It's really annoying. I wish they would just remove that action delay from the game. Okay, so we did it. We got the blue bots out of the way, and now we're just going to stay focused on the big Stingray.
Dragons soaring above the lands. This is permanent. Arthur and I. That savage.
Okay, we're gonna hit Stingray, and I think we'll be able to basically wait it out until it dies from dot damage. Okay, almost. But we should be able to finish it off
Seek and you shall receive.
pretty easily here.
My job is through you. Arthur and I.
Don Hung should be able to do it with just a basic, I think. Alright, well, I'll die from dot damage there. Okay. Okay, so we have a little bit of time to do some damage on Pom Pom here, because Pom Pom needs to take a turn to get their damage reduction armor up. So we can actually get a nice chunky ult on them right now, which is really cool. And we'll get some follow-up attacks from Tribby. And Don Hung's going to trigger another follow-up attack for Ashvale, which is going to trigger another follow-up attack for Tribby. I love this team. This is so fun. And Ashvale's already at like 70% of another ult. It's his team. So yeah, if you can time it to where you can get some damage in before Pom Pom's turn, you can see we already did like 40% damage, which is great. However, now we see Pom Pom has their armor up. You can see the 2 out of 2 under their name. That is going to give significant damage reduction. I believe it's 30% per stack, so 60% is a lot. But they've also summoned these little scrubbing bubble bots. I don't know if you all remember scrubbing bubbles or if that's just the USA thing, but that's what they look like. We have one bot on our team that can help us remove the armor. And so if you see next to their portrait in the timeline, there's a little elation mask. that is their punchline. So anytime we gain punchline, they gain punchline. And when they hit 20, they will get their turn advanced, and they can remove a stack from Pom Pom. Now, if you're wondering how we're going to gain punchline because we're not an elation team, well, our buddy gains 5 punchline when they do their attack, and we will gain 5 punchline anytime we take out one of the small guys on Pom Pom's side. So there's other ways, like when you take damage and stuff, that you'll get punchline, but that's the primary way to do it. And so you'll see when I do this attack, that number's going to go to 5 next to their portrait. Okay, so the other question is going to be, what do we do with Ashvale? Do we focus on the small guys or Pom Pom? And my strategy has generally been to take out the first 2 small guys to kind of get a head start on the punchline. And for the rest of the fight, we're going to keep Ashvale focused on Pom Pom themselves. And what will happen is, over time, Tribby and Don Hung will be able to take out more of those small guys to keep the punchline going. An interesting kind of piece of this fight is the small guys stay even when you enter phase 2, so any damage that you've done will be still there. Okay, and you can see with our buddy, they were at 18, and after attacking they gained 5, and that advanced their attack immediately. And you can see their attack is now called Impair, and if you watch Pom Pom's 2 out of 2 under their name, it's now reduced to 1. So Pom Pom will be taking a lot more damage. And hopefully what will happen is we will take out the first phase before we get our buddy at 20 again. And that way our buddy will be ready to immediately remove a stack of armor once phase 2 starts. Okay. Oh. Very easy to miss Tribby's buff if you're not paying attention. Make sure you always hit Tribby's buff. Oh, that action delay screwed me over again there.
Watch over you and guide you on your path.
Okay, I think what I'm gonna do is call... Oh, you know what? I did not mean to hit Tribby's ult yet.
Heard the call. Trinity is before me.
My job is to be nice.
Okay.
I offer my blood. Beasts!
So, between this ult and the follow-up attacks, we should easily get to phase 2 here. Oh. Ashvale took a lot of damage on that. Okay. Okay, so our buddy was, we managed to pick off one of the small guys. So our buddy is pretty much ready before where we needed him to start attacking, which is good. And Don Hung is going to take out that one weak one at the end there too. So we're already going to get a good head start on taking out the second stack. I gotta be careful. Ashvale's been taking a beating here, which is kind of good because it means he's gaining energy, but...
I offer my blood. Beasts! Slaughter each other! Fight to the death!
Our buddy's one punchline away. Tribby doing her best to fight that action delay effect with Dance, Dance, Dance. There it is. Alright. So Pom Pom is now taking maximum damage. You'll see it's quite significant.
My strength isn't what it was.
We are running out of time here, though.
I offer my blood. Beasts slaughter each other. Fight to the death.
Dragons soaring above the lands.
I don't think we're gonna make the two... Oh, we might do it. Ah, we just barely made it. Very nice. Alright. So there you have it. Like I said, that's a tricky fight. You know, there's RNG involved. You know, there's a lot of things that can go wrong. You're probably better off just playing Sparksy, but it can be done there, as you can see with Ashvale. I think if we get, you know, stronger follow-up attack characters and stuff, that's going to be very good for him. But anyway, I hope that was at least helpful in explaining the boss fight, and you can apply the lessons to learn on all those mechanics to whatever other team that you're using. So, you know, hopefully that was helpful and, you know, entertaining. And if you like this kind of thing, like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.